All right, folks. So my storage was backed up, so I had to make some space. All right. So as I was saying, continuing the message, right? So look, here's the thing. We all do what Gideon does, right? We all doubt ourselves, and we put restrictions and limitations on ourselves, and therefore we subconsciously limit God's power to act upon our lives based on our current station. Because here Gideon is saying, I'm the least in my father's house. My family's the poorest. How can you use me? Transliteration is not even translation. Speed it up. Let's bring it to today's language. Look, in society today, God, I'm an outcast. I've been ostracized, labeled, criticized, racialized, profiled. I'm blacklisted, blackballed. I'm the worst of the worst. I'm the dregs of society. How are you going to use me? I live in what's called the hood, right? I'm no good. How are you going to use me? And I'm the least educated. I don't have a Harvard. I don't have a Yale. I don't have a Princeton. I don't have any Ivy League education. I barely graduated high school. I went to community college. I didn't finish the community. I got a couple of credits, yeah, but I didn't finish it. So how are you going to use me? I mean, I'm not as articulate. I'm not as good looking as the other guy. That guy looks better than me. Maybe you could use him. She looks better. She drives a better car. He lives in a better house. I mean, how are you going to use me? God, all these thoughts run through our heads, right? And we do this. We're self-saboteurs. We self-sabotage, therefore we are self-saboteurs, and we become self-sabotoree, right? Because we sabotage ourselves. So we self-limit, procrastinate, self-sabotage, and therefore self-destruct, right? And how are you going to use me, God? I mean, again, here's Gideon. I'm translating. I'm bringing us up to today's contemporary linguistic in terms of Gideon's psychology. So we all do this. And the interesting thing and the comfort in this is this, though. Gideon's name means great warrior, right? That's the name. So kids, so parents out there, people, be very mindful, be very careful of what you name your children. Because here's why. Every day, the Bible says in Jeremiah that I've known you from your mother's womb. From the womb of the mother, I've known you. I'm paraphrasing. The point I'm making is this. When you name your child, that name is going to be called, that child's going to be called that name every single day for the rest of his or her life. Now, the name Gideon, embedded in that word, is the message, great warrior, because that's the meaning. That is the hidden cryptic mystique of the name. Every name has a mysticism to it. My name, your name. Marlin means falcon. If you read about a falcon flies above the fray, right? And has a laser-like focus on its prey when it wants to attack. So my name means falcon. So every time someone says my name, that's going to be planted in my subconscious and in my RAS and in my reticular activating system, right? So that's going to be embedded in me. So naturally, over a period of time and condition, I'm going to take on that vibrational frequency of the falcon because that's what my name means. My middle name is Orlando, which means famous in the land, right? So that's why Walt Disney World is in Orlando, Florida. It means famous in the land, famous land. And my last name is Greek, which means victory of the people. So when you name your child, they're going to be called that for the rest of their lives. And within the name, there are meanings, messages, and those messages are going to be interpreted by the RAS, by the neurons, and it's going to be translated by the electrical impulses that triggers the neocortex and all of these other stuff. So I don't want to go too far into that, but be careful what you name your children because Gideon means great warrior. Now, the irony is he lived his life not as a great warrior, but when he came into his purpose, look at what his purpose is. I said in the last video, God said to him, I'm going to use you to smite the Midianites and liberate Israel. So his name, he actually came into his name at this very junction of his life. At this point in his life, he stepped into his name, which was great warrior. And then he said, I am a poor man. I'm the least of my father's house. So that tells you and I, we can draw some implications, associations, and get some rational conclusions that his entire life he has lived as a commoner or a normal person, not a great warrior, because he said, I'm the least in my father's house. My family's the poorest. So be careful what you name your kids. That's the point. So anyhow, moving right along. So the point, so we got to understand, right, that yeah, when God calls you to do something. So here's the interesting, what Gideon is doing. He's saying, well, he's doubting, but not only is he doubting, he's also looking with the natural eyes. He's saying, if you're with us, God, then why have I suffered so much? Why have my people, why have we been in bondage? You have forsaken us. Look at my neighbor over there. My neighbor, he has a nice car. He lives in a bigger house than me. He has his wife, he has a wife, he has kids. I don't have any of that. I'm single. I don't have a girlfriend. That guy, I go to church, he doesn't, but God is with me. Yeah, sure. So now I can see some sarcasm, a little bit of sarcasm there, a little condescending, Gideon's being a little condescending to the Lord, and yeah, sure, you're with me, but this guy over here, he's driving Bentleys, Benz, Rolls Royce, and he's got all the fancy schmancy stuff, but you're with me, right? Sure. And this is what we do, folks. We associate wealth, we associate riches, we associate material things with blessings, right? There's some truth in that, but this called specious. Specious means there's some truth, but there's also some fallacy, some false, fictitious implications, and that's what we do. So just because a person has wealth, riches, and all these fancy stuff doesn't mean that they're blessed by God. Okay, the devil gives gifts too. Surprise! In case you didn't know, the devil can give you gifts. All right. So anywho, the point though is, so Gideon is saying, if you're with me, why am I suffering so much? Why are we in such a bad state? And my neighbor over there, he's a backslider. He moonwalks. He's not only backsliding. Look, he's backsliding with style and pizzazz. He's moonwalking, backsliding. Right. He's a heathen. He's a pagan. The guy doesn't go to church. Gideon's ratting on this guy. It's like, this guy's a backslider. God, he doesn't go to church. He like cheats on his wife. He's got girlfriends and, he's got boyfriends, but yet he's blessed, right? He has all this stuff. So we do that sometimes, right? We tend to associate materialism with blessings from God, and the reason we do that is because the Bible does say riches and wealth and riches shall be in the house of the righteous, in Proverbs. So there is some truth to that, but not in all cases. This is where you have to use what's called the spirit of discernment. You have to discern what's considered blessings from God and what's considered blessing from, the other guy, the guy that lives downstairs. So we got to be careful with that. We can't associate materialism with blessings in all cases. It's not a one size fits all. Sometimes it is mutually exclusive. They both don't exist at the same time. But getting back to this, so here we see Gideon. He doubts God and asks for signs 3 times, and he needs some convincing, some persuading, and God is patient with him, and he obliges. He accommodates, and so Gideon now gets his bands of soldiers together, and God reduces the soldiers to 300 men, and they win the battle and liberate Israel. But the point is, God still, even then in that, showed wisdom by reducing his soldiers, because sometimes in life, if you rely on your soldiers, in our terms, you rely on your finances, you rely on your kids, you rely on your wife, you rely on materialism alone, you tend to take the credit. It's part of our flawed nature. You get, gassed up, or you become high-minded or bloated, and you bloviate, so to speak, with your egotisticalism. It's very easy to become seduced and seduced by the ego. So God reduces his army to a number of 300 men, and this way you can't take the credit because of the might of your army. It's still my doing. So folks, the point is that we need to learn to not doubt God's power on our lives because of our current or immediate situation and or circumstances. Gideon, again, judged God's power based off his current conditions and his natural limited self. And that's what we do today. So the moral of the video is not to doubt what God can do with you and through you based on your current state and or conditions and or status, because the limitations, self-inflicted limitation that we inflict on ourselves has no power on God's power, if that makes any sense. The limitations we put on ourselves cannot limit God's power. So trust in God and let him use you, folks. Till next time, Mark here. cooking the books, bringing info. Peace.